My friends, welcome back. We're here again for another exciting episode of Android Developer. I don't want to do the voice thing. This is terrible. Android Developer Fundamentals V2. Build your first app. We're building our first app. Lesson 1. What a lie. 1.2. Layouts and resources for the UI. The user interface. So what are we looking at? What does our disparate collection of ideas tell us? Views, view groups, the view hierarchy, some social justice, the layout editor, and constraint layout. Okay, the layout editor, we've been there. Hello, crazy world. Let's edit some layouts, right? So, what else do we got? Event handling. Okay, and I have a tutorial of my own, some original content instead of just spewing out the words on the screen. I have a tutorial that it's really fun. I have a couple of them that they remake tutorials that I think are kind of I don't know. They expect too little from people, and somehow in the process make things more difficult than they have to be. I'm going to try and fix that. Some nice, quick, easy tutorials on event handling, buttons, the works. And then we have resources measurements, which resources, I think you were talking the resources directory, res, right? So your drawables and stuff like that. We're going to be looking at views. We are looking at views. Everything you see is a view, right? So you got the buttons here. They're all views. Common descent. Are we Java undergraduates? If yes, then we're thinking extension, inheritance, right? So view subclasses are basic user interface building blocks. Text, buttons, scrollables, all the things are views. Thank you. That's true. This is the truth. They're not lying to us. Buttons, checkbox, radio button, all those lovely things for your Android phone, your I agree to the terms and conditions totally. The checkbox. Am I male or female? The radio button. Do I want developer mode? The switch. I think I might be lying. Who knows? Anyways, attributes, right? So attributes, kind of like your properties. You got your methods. You got your properties. Your properties are describe the object. So these attributes are going to describe the properties of the view, right? So the color, your dimensions. How big is the button? Where do I put that button? Did they click on the button? Does the button have focus? Are they typing into this particular box? A view can be interactive, maybe interactive, maybe visible or not. Sneaky views hidden in the background, hiding. You don't know. Relationships to other views. That's a thing that's like parenting. There's probably some other kinds of relationships, but the big one I'm thinking of right now is parenting. So I was playing around a little bit here. Can we make the text box a child of another text box? No, not by the appearance. So let's drag a constraint layout on. I'm just throwing it in. You can see the outline for it there, and I'm just going to stick this guy inside. Did that not... oh, whoops. That's the parent of everything. There we go. So there it is inside. Now I've got some constraints on here, but if I move the parent, you see the child moves with it. That's kind of one of the basic precepts of our parent-child relationship. I'm going to destroy that relationship because it was unhealthy, and I'm going to get rid of the constraint layout here. And back to normal. All right. So what else do we have? Well, we have nothing on that slide. Buckle yourself up. It's going to be a long, long day, my friends. Long, long day. All right. Create views and layouts. Android Studio Layout Editor. Visual representation of XML. All right, what are they trying to tell us? Well, they're trying to tell us that editor I was just showing you, this is, as I showed you before, we switch over to, whoops, just used the wrong screen. We switch over to text, and that is the layout that we're working with, right? So when we go over here, it's rendering the XML into a half emulation of the app. It's kind of fascinating. The application has to be able to build for you to get this view, which is something I find really interesting. We're going to be digging into that once we get our hands around some nuance. Once we get our hands on some nuance, we'll dig into that. The XML editor, which I just showed, so that's fine. And the Java code, that's main activity.java. We've been down there. You know, that's there are ways to create views using these three methods, all right? Let's go through them. Android Studio Layout Editor, all right? All these elements, XML layout file, okay? So that's, they're showing you in the project pane right there. The XML layout file is in the project pane. Design and text tabs, I've shown you that down at the bottom, switching between your two, you know, depending on what you want to do. Palette pane, palette. The palette pane is actually a very interesting piece of work, so I'd like to show it off a little bit. Da-da-da. All right, so here's our palette pane, clearly labeled. Thank you. You have category, so the common elements, common children of view, I guess we can call them. The text-based elements, right? So we've got tons of beautiful things there. Buttons, you know, your widgets, your containers, where is it? The layouts here is important. Constraint layouts, so we're going to be playing with that, I expect, if the foreshadowing in this book is any good at least. All right, so next up, they want to show off the component tree. Number 4, I'm going to stay on this and show you the component tree. So there it is right there. That's where I was messing around with the hierarchy. I had a layout in. I added one of the text elements as a child to that layout, so that's where you're getting that hierarchy concept from. This all follows a tree pattern. This is a listing of all the elements, the views in this XML file. So you're going to see we have a constraint layout and 2 text view children, right? And if you look, the constraint layout, there it is. It is actually the tag, right? So it encapsulates everything. There's our constraint layout. And then the 2 text views. So what you see is what you get, but not literally WYSIWYG, all right? So good stuff. Number 5, design and blueprint panes. They're actually telling you just to look at this. This is what we've got here. This is the design and blueprint panes. And then finally, number 6, the attributes tab. Okay, and it's not a tab on my screen over here. I can turn it into a tab with this guy right here. Beautiful. Oh, I got a little warning sign. Oh, we're not even going to open that door. Okay, view defined in XML. So they're just defining a text view. I have, let me pop over the slideshow so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, and just break it down here. So they set the ID, and the ID appears to be stored in the in res under values, right? So you have your @ you got your reference. I don't know exactly where those are defined. We're gonna be digging into that. We're gonna get hip to this this ID aspect of res because we're gonna be digging into it for event handlers. Don't panic or hop on Google right now. Get her done. They also set the layout width. They set the layout height. You got your background. And again, there's a color here, color reference. So, you know, I'm just going to keep rolling here. I don't want to. Oh, here we go. Beautiful. This is what we're looking for. This is, they're creating it in Java now. All right. So this is what it looks like when he's whipping up a text view. Okay. Naming it my text. And then populating that initialized instantiated variable words. You're populating it with a new text view, okay, and they're giving it a context, okay. So that's why they tell you they're in an activity, because when you're coding, right, you use the word this, it refers to whatever happens to be running at the time from within the context that you're in. So if you're coding in main activity.java, when you refer to this, we're talking about the activity itself, okay? So you provide the context to the text view for it to know where to put itself. Where do I exist? What's my context, you know? Then they set the text of that value. So that's what we're looking at there. It's kind of, this is what I think you would call the programmatic approach to making a view element, you know, in Java. What is the context? Excellent. What is the context? You took me out of context. It's an interface to global information about an application environment. Okay, so that's that sounds pretty deep. I need to explore the breadth of that a little bit. All right. It's an abstract class whose implementation is provided by the Android system. It allows access to application-specific resources and classes, as well as upcalls for application-level operations, such as launching activities, broadcasting and receiving intents, etc. So it's kind of like you're passing around a lot of very critical information to very critical systems. So when you need a context, it's easy to get, as we're going to see. How do you get the context? Context equals get application context, which is that is quintessential code right there, right? Button equals new button. An activity is its own context. All right, so that's what we're looking at before here. If you're in an activity, you pass this in, and you're passing in context. So you don't need that get application context magic, because it is the context when you're within an activity. Over 100 different types of views available from the Android system, all children of the View class. It's not just a theory, common descent. They're all children of the View class. If necessary, you can create custom views, and spoiler alert, I have a tutorial that I'm gonna have to find an appropriate point to introduce into this whole thing. But I have a tutorial that will we're gonna make a paint application that has a bunch of features in it, because why not, right? You do that by subclassing existing views or the View class. And that means you're taking their template View class, you're extending it, right? Java undergrads, we're all Java undergrads, yes, excellent. You're extending that class using inheritance, and then you're overwriting how it does its job. You're giving overrides or providing additional fields and methods to extend the functionality, which again, we have a tutorial for that. There's a fix for that. ViewGroup and View hierarchy. Okay. The constraint layout appears to be kind of popular. It's the default for when we made our hello world. That was what our default was. It positions UI elements using constraint connections to other elements and to the layout edges. Okay, so I don't want to play around with it because I always break it, or I can't impromptu come up with things. But you can see the constraints we're dealing with to the layout edge. This guy's constrained to another element, so I think I can oops, oh, that was a selection I just performed. I think I can just see that I'm changing the relative constraint between the two buttons now, because I've constrained them to each other, and then I can. Oh, yeah, it's some fancy stuff. We're excited. All right. Okay, scroll view contains one element and enables scrolling. Alrighty. Recycler view contains a list of elements and enables scrolling by adding and removing elements dynamically. Keep a bookmark in that. Put a pin in that one. That sounds pretty useful to me. I don't know about you. Alright, view groups for layouts. Layouts are specific types of view groups, subclasses of view group. They contain child views. They can be in a row, column, grid, table, or absolute. Common layout classes. Look at this. We got our linear layout. Just line them up. Constraint layout. See that they're showing you that these things are somehow bound to each other. The grid layout. Ooh, the quintessential mobile right there. Just give me a massive matrix of icons and let me sort them out. And a table layout, in case you want to go back to the TDTR days. I'm just joking. Constraint layout, connect views with constraints. Oh, wow. Okay, so you know what? I'm already way ahead of the curve, fellas. We're not going to touch that one. Ladies and fellas, whoever. I'm not going to gender you. View class hierarchy is standard object-oriented class inheritance. Okay? A button is a text view, is a view, is an object. Superclass, subclass, relationship. If you're not a Java undergraduate and you want the inheritance talk, I am so ready to give it. Just one person has to ask. That's it. Layout hierarchy is how views are visually arranged. For example, linear layout can contain buttons arranged in a row. Parent-child relationship. We showed off that with the constraint view. I put a text box in there. That's what we're looking at, all right? Root view is always a view group. See, you got classic hierarchy. Who doesn't love looking at trees, huh? View hierarchy and screen layout. Okay, yes, so the linear layout, it contains everything. The linear layout, everybody's got one parent. My database professor would be proud. Okay, so they're showing it all here. This is what it looks like in app. Okay, so excellent. There's the component tree. We're already old hats at this. We're just professionals. The layout created in XML, so there's how you do it. I am shamefully a interface designer kind of guy. It's not that I can't, it's just I'm lazy. Hold me to a higher standard, thank you. Layout created in Java activity code. Oh, okay. So there's the nuts and bolts programmatically doing this. Your orientation, this is great because this is showing you, you're not bound to doing it one way. If you, like I said in a previous lecture, I have an app that doesn't have an XML layout. So are there any buttons? Oh, you betcha. So how do I do that? I do that something like this. Okay, so there you go. Set width and height in Java code. Beautiful. Layout parameters. A lot of fun figuring that out. We're going to be digging right in. Not right now, but you got to know what it is. Got to do it. Best practices for view hierarchies. I love me some best practices. Thank you much. Arrangement of view hierarchy affects app performance. Use the smallest number of simplest views possible. Keep the hierarchy flat. Limit nesting of views and view groups. So what they're saying when I was fancying around with all the constraint layouts and stuff, they're not saying it's bad. They're saying keep it to a minimum. Okay? Make your hierarchy simple. You could have this crazy 10 levels deep of, like a directory structure, and you're at the very end of it. Just sounds like a nightmare from me sitting here not having a clue what you're up to. So let's avoid that. The layout editor and constraint layout. So let's dig into these magical things. Magic. Connect UI elements to parent layout. And look, there's even an animation here. They're just doing my job for me. I don't have to. And you're seeing here, they're the nodes in the center of the bounds, right? They're attaching from one to the other. And that's what's going on there. So we can do all these things. Resize, position elements, align element. How do we do it, right? That's what we want to know. How? Oh, Android slideshow. How? Not PowerPoint. Default layout for new Android Studio project. That is the constraint layout. We have noted that. View group that offers flexibility for layout design. Gosh darn tootin' it is. It's very flexible as far as I can tell. It does frustrate me being a noob, but by the end of this, hopefully I can say I'm not anymore. Provides constraints to determine positions and alignment of UI elements, and that's what I like so much about it. I can say, this column of elements here, it's associated with this other guy. It goes here, and when they move together. It's like an advanced level of parent-child relationships. It's lovely. Constraint is a connection to another view, parent layout, or invisible guideline. Okay, so you can even, by the sounds of it, you can make yourself a sub-template of invisible elements that these are snapping to. That's just great stuff. It sounds like it could get very complicated. You have to be a little careful, but we're careful people. Layout editor main toolbar. All right, so it's nicely labeled. Let's go through them. You select your design surface, design and blueprint panes. I have to see that for myself. Thank you. Design plus blue. Okay, so that's what That's what I was saying. Design and blueprint. Design and blueprint. Design is like a themed version. I can even, I don't know, will that, there, I can kind of show off different themes. You see the difference. Blueprint, no. It's got your constraints. You see what's going on. I kind of like the combo. Pretty big fan of the combo, not going to lie. Okay. Orientation in editor. Okay, so, I mean, if that's not the most definitional button you've ever seen, you know, so that's how you're going to switch it over to tweak your configuration and make sure that it works in both portrait and landscape. A multi-surface world we live in, remember that. Device and editor. Choose a device for preview. Okay, so that's, I want to say that that's going to show you, oh, you can, let me show you what you're really looking at here. Look at that. So you can configure for all sorts of things. Look at this. There you go. So now I'm doing a phone app and on a watch. Good. Excellent. That's what we want. API version in editor. Oh, you can change the API version. I mean, it's going to be, you know, it's basically a number line. We don't have to go that deep. API version in editor. Theme in editor. That's what I was messing around with up top there. The theme, it always gives me guff, and I haven't exactly figured out why, so I have to swap mine around before it works properly. Locale in editor, so you can change your language. That's something magical about these strings, right? Is that you can define almost all the terms that the user sees in the application, and then you can redefine them in a different language. I hope you get that level of nuance so you can make those truly complete apps, you know, the well thought out, well designed apps. Let's look at the constraint layout toolbar in the editor. I don't exactly see the same thing they do, so I'm just gonna, oh dearie me. Well, let's review it from here for now, and then we'll make some connections later. Show constraints and show margins. No, I really want to find this guy. How come I don't have it up? Oh no, I do. It's just slightly different. Okay, it looks like a different version, so I'd better cover the differences. So I'll go through the list on the PowerPoint, and I'll show you where those buttons are on here. The show button right up here, and I should have been tipped off. They are very similar. Show constraints, show margins. Why can't I see anything in there? Because I was messing around with this thing. Go back to my favorite. Okay, so we'll hide the constraints. We'll hide the margins, or we'll hide the margins, yeah. Show the margins. Anyways. Auto connect, enable or disable. And that's number 2 here, which I have it disabled. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that on. I'm not sure what that would do. Let's try putting something on. To be honest, I don't know. Oh, I did something. Well, anyways, we'll get into that. I'm sure they'll explain it. Clear all constraints. That's a handy button. Let's give that one a shot. Boom. Oh, beautiful. I didn't know about that. I feel silly now. That's why you go through the tutorials, right? Let's whip up some constraints for fun. Because why not? We're having some fun. Come on in. Oh, it's constrained, I guess. Lovely. Anyways, sorry, I get distracted. Infer constraints. Create constraints by inference. Interesting. I'm wondering if that's going to be the ability to... Yeah. So it kind of thinks about what the context is, and it does its best, I suppose. We'll dig into the rules of that. We'll get there. Default margins, you can change the margins at the edges of the app, and see, that's where we start to change. That's where I'm a little different. So button number 5 there, if you look, it's like this infinity loop, number 8 kind of deal. Oh, that's the margins right there. Okay, so if we look, I think it was the 8 that tipped me off. That's got to be this. Default margins, yeah. And then number 6 on this is pack or expand selected elements. Oh, and you know what? Oh, they're super clever about this. See, it shows up based on context. Until I had something selected, it disappears. So we're going to have to bear that in mind. Align. That's alignment right here. So again, that's a selected contextual thing, and that's what was throwing me off. Guidelines. Guidelines are right here. We were just looking at that. So you can... I think... I'm not sure how to operate those yet. We're going to learn. We're going to learn. Zoom controls. Zoom in or out. That's up here. They're on a separate bar now, I guess. So that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Everything looks good. So that's how we cope with those changes. Auto connect. Here we go. This is one of the questions we had. We're going to have it answered. Drag an element to any part of a layout. Auto connect generates constraints against the parent layout. Okay, so that's what happened when I had the text view in the center. We'll now that we know what we're doing here, we'll disable that. Is auto connect on? It looks like it is. So yeah, there's some constraint options available to me. I think I can. So yeah, you can have it going and making. I can imagine this would end up being nightmarish if you had something in particular that coincidentally generated an auto connect, but you didn't want that connection. So you're always going to want to. Oh, I wasn't showing that off at all. I'm sorry. Just review that really quickly, because we're going to delete our constraints, and we're going to see it's picking based on, I guess if I do here, we're going to, let me get a different element there. If I do something like, yeah, like that, right? Then it goes vertical. Yeah, because I'm centering it along that line that it shows. So, okay. Okay. So there's auto connect explained. Good stuff. Constraint layout handles, the handles. So that's something else that most of us are familiar generally, vaguely, with the idea of your a lot of software call them gizmos, the little nubs at the corner to resize the picture. The resize handles are there; they're on the corners, and then you have the constraint handle, right? And that's number 2 here. You have a constraint handle. Number 4, a baseline handle. Some new terminology there. Assign elements by baseline. Click the baseline constraint button. Drag from baseline to other elements. Baseline. Watching it happen here. Oh. Now you see how fancy that is? Let's see if we can replicate that behavior here. So baseline constraint. Is that going to be a layout? Wait. Click the baseline constraint button. Where's that at? Does it show it in the GIF here? I'd love to know how to find that guy. He looks kind of cool. Oh yeah, there it is, right there. Context is everything. So there's our baseline. I think I can just delete all these because we don't want them. And we're going to turn that off. It looks like I got rid of the baseline, so I'll add it again. Add it again, and then... Ooh, did I fail? Looks like I failed. There we go. Look at that. So it's a... They're linked by their baseline. It's a... Yeah, it's like a it's a vertical, a level, and I'll zoom in here a little bit so we can see what we're doing. We'll select this guy, we'll move it, there we go. What happens if we try another one? Do they all move together? No. So only the master here that everybody's referencing can control. This gives me some ideas. No, only the parent, only the ultimate parent, I think, because this guy appears to be connected to this guy. So yeah, just to make sure. Yeah, definitely. Very cool. So there's a new skill. Just put that in your bucket of skills. Attributes pane. Click the attributes tab, make the attributes pane appear. I went over that. You know how to get to it. You should. You better. And it is a list of controls, you know, so it's right there. That's what we're looking at right here. It's just all those magical features, right? So let's just kind of slip over. And here we go. Here's kind of the, this is what I need to understand. The vertical view size controls specifies layout underscore height. Number one right here. Okay. Horizontal view size control specifies layout width. So these controls, by the sounds of it, they're being specified by this guy. Attribute pane close button. Thank you so much. Okay, so can we, yeah, let's take a look. So layout height is controlled by this guy, layout width by this guy. What's happening if we see the values change? Wait. See the height changed here because the rules of the constraint. Oops. Interesting. Love to know how I accomplished that. The rules of the constraint have changed, so I'm going to resize this guy so that we can see it. See it's doing its magic. The width changed a little bit there, but here we can see the height being adjusted as we muss about with the controls. So that's what they're just saying there. That's what they're pointing us towards. Layout width and layout height change with size controls. That's we demonstrated that. Beautiful. Match constraint. So that's what the Ziggy expands element to fill its parent. Wrap content shrinks element to enclose content. And then this guy is the fixed number of density independent pixels. So density independent pixels. There's a, it's almost like your radian, I suppose, like a unit that doesn't depend on scale but refers to some proportional element. I'll take it. Set attributes to view and edit all attributes for element. Click the attributes tab. We've been in there. Select element in design blueprint or component tree. Change most viewed attributes. Oh, there's a view more attributes. Oh, attributes plus. Let's find that. How do you get to the attributes plus, Android Studio? Looks like it's this guy up here. See that? Boo! Oh, nose! Oh no! Oh no! That's too much. Take it away. Take it away. Ooh, that's too much. Ooh, nightmares. All right, set attribute example, TextView. It's mucking about with the gravity. I mean, hey, you know what? That's what I'm here for, guys. That's, you don't need those GIFs. Preview layout with horizontal and vertical orientation. I don't want to demonstrate. Well, you know what? I have to. I can't not demonstrate. We're on a demo roll. We're getting through this. Let's do it. Let's demonstrate. Orientation. Oh, dearie me. There it is. Landscape. Nailed it. Alright, so you got it. You want your demo? You got your demo. The devices, we've covered all this. It's good. Create layout variant for landscape. Oh, interesting. So you go into the orientation editor button where we were just mucking around. Create landscape variation. And then, so this is, you know, if your layout just doesn't jive with the landscape / portrait, if you gotta go in there and you couldn't get your constraints just right, there's an option for us. Create landscape variation, tablet variation. So there's other options too here. And so now I'm guessing. Actually, there are many questions. Look at that. So it's now I can freely modify the elements within this variation. If you want to be a scientist, I don't want to take up too much time, but if you want to be a scientist, try adding different elements to different variations. See what gets synchronized, what doesn't. I'm assuming nothing, or maybe there's rules in place. We'll find out. We're going to find out. Create layout variant for tablet. Hey, you know what? I'm just ahead of the curve. What can I say? Oh, oops. Go into the presentation here. So you see that I'm not crazy, even though I am. Event handling. We're approaching the end here. Really, if you've stuck with me this far, you are a brave soul, and I appreciate it. Events. I love explaining events because it's something that happens. What do you want? What more do you want? And it really does get that vague, because an event is a term, right? An event is like an activity. It's not just like an activity is something that someone does. It's a particular component, right? So an event is it's a particular. I don't want to use bad words, so it's a programming concept. There you go. They call event-driven a programming paradigm, but that's not. We're not looking at the paradigm. We're looking at in which the flow of programming execution is determined by events, right? So then they list the mouse click, the key press. These are things that are happening. You know, when you write a program, you write this loop of logic. How do you break in to allow somebody to do something? You know what I mean? If you have a while loop with nothing in it, it just locks your computer up. You know, or let's escape the idea of multi-threading and all that. You need something to be able to interrupt your program flow when the user wants to do stuff, and that's your event. That's where the interactivity comes from, right? So device detected activity can be an event. Events are noticed by the Android system. Event listeners, I'm guessing. Methods that do something in response to a click. That's what we call an event handler, or one form of event handler. A method called an event handler is triggered by a specific event and does something in response to that event. On-click event, right? And we're going to be looking at that kind of stuff. You're a Java undergraduate, or else you better be, and you know this already. But I'm still going to teach it just in case, because, you know, why not? Attach an XML, implement in Java. Okay, what are we saying there? Attach an XML, implement in Java. Beautiful. It's this is a two-stage process. I'm not explaining it just for fun. Attach the handler to the view in the XML layout. Android on-click, show toast. Let's answer a few interesting questions. One of them is, can you have an on-click event for a text? And in order to see that, on-click. Wow. Okay. So you'd put your show toast in there, and then implement handler in Java activity. And you're going to have to write a little bit of code. The method called show toast, it does some stuff. It shows the toast. Can't go wrong with that, all right? So there are other ways to do this. I have a feeling actually I can predict it. So let's take another look. Alternative, you set the click handler in Java. This is the way that I learned, and I quite love it, because if you look in here, there's something kind of interesting for somebody who's not a Java undergraduate. You have the button. They find the button by ID. That's what I was referring to earlier. Look at this. You have R. That's it's kind of like your res kind of folder. .id, .button underscore ID. That references the button in the XML document, in the view. And we're gonna crack that guy open, because it's it looks like pure magic from the outside, and it's not going to be for much longer. So then they go on to call a method on the button. Okay, so there's the button, found the button, call a method on the button, set on click listener. And in order to, what they set the on-click listener to is a new on-click listener object. View.onClickListener object, okay? It's getting weird. They're actually sticking this code. This code is like, Hate being bad at explaining things. This code is the on-click listener. What we're looking at here, this is what gets called, and you got to keep this structure here. This all here is important. This is the code you define, and then this is the close off for that, right? So this method inside on-click, there's many methods you can override, I believe, in many of the cases for these handlers. Okay, so we're going to be digging into those. Resources and measurements. Separate static data from code in your layouts. All right, so that's the whole thing I'm getting into with this at nonsense, is that if you kind of look, and maybe we'll make that part of this an advanced version of our tutorial here. If you look here, I have this disgusting literal text. I don't even know what to do with myself. Look, they're saying it's wrong. They're saying I'm a bad person. You should use an @string resource. And you know what? Why don't we just, and this is, I want to stress that independent learning thing. Control F1, what does that even do? Let's find out. Hard coding text attributes directly in layout files is bad for several reasons. There are quick fixes. Well, what are the quick fixes? Look at that. That's actually going to do it for me. We're gonna dig deep into this to see what it does. So we extract the string resource. Look at that. Look at this. It's a wizard. I'm way too blessed right now. This is way too easy. So we're gonna keep the defaults because it looks beautiful. And look at that. They're asking us, where do you want it to go? And it's a string, so it's going to go in strings. And we're going to look at the code it generates. But you see, it follows the same format as something like, there's got to be a reference somewhere. There's a reference to an ID, not exactly the same, but because it's a string, not an ID. So you're going to have to take my word for it. I know the manifest has one, so just to see, it's showing me there that what it says, but that's not what it says. It actually says that string @string/app name. So let's dig into our strings and see it. And look at how easy that is. So, you know, it's from now on, I'm going to start getting into the habit of doing this because I just don't want to get beat up, and I'm afraid somebody's going to beat me up. So we're moving forward with our lives. Now that we've learned about resources, we can't go back. It's too late. We have to learn. So strings, dimensions, images, menu text, colors, styles, everything useful for localization. What does that mean? What does it mean, localization? Well, if I need to, maybe my clicker app, you know, I dried up the North American market. People have clicked too many times, and so now I have to go elsewhere. And all the British slang, because I'm just going to Britain. I'm not. You might have expected I go for a language that's actually different, but no, I just want to change I just want to change my app to have like a mate in it more often or something. I can create a whole new set of strings. I don't have to make two apps. I can change the localization of the app to change the language on it, to change the verbiage on it. Whatever I want, I can do that. If I didn't, I'd be going into all my XML resources and changing those hard-coded text, and Android the whole time would be like, hey, you know, this is a bad idea, and I'd be erasing that and writing something else that's a bad idea, hard-coded. Yeah, no, let's dodge it. For Hello World, like, do you really need the strings? Well, kind of, because next time you go to write an app, what are you going to do? Are you going to Hello World it again, or are you going to use the strings? Just use the strings. You got this. We got this, buddy. Resources and resource files stored in the res folder. And that's, you know what? We're just ahead of the curve here. Layout, view, string. You know it. So again, they're just showing, refer to resources in code. They're showing how. So this is how you get to a layout from Java. res.layout. And then this is the file name, activity main. View. r.id.recycler view. Okay, so this is the name of the view, I'm assuming. Here they actually, this is a cast, my fellow Java undergraduates. They're casting what they find by ID into a recycler view, because they want the recycler view to be a recycler view. Object oriented. If anybody wants the casting, object oriented, that's where inheritance is going to come from. Just one of you ask, boom, it's done. String in Java. So you reference it, just go into R, and let's bust this open. Okay, so there's been too many references to R. I want to demystify. I want to share what I know. Main activity.java. So this is Java. We're in an activity context, right? There's my log. Look at that beautiful log. Oh, this application is next generation. We want to see. That's what's great about autocomplete, you know. A lot of people don't like the autocomplete. They say it makes you lazy. It also makes you inquisitive. So R dot holy cow. You know, look at all the map sounds familiar. Layout sounds familiar. String sounds familiar. So let's go into string. Let's see, what do you know about me? Look at that, guys. So there you go. You have your data there. That's a string. You got your string that you've set. So I don't know. That's some pretty high level magic there, right? And let's go through all of them. So that was a string. Let's see the layouts. There's activity main. All right. IDs. And there's my embarrassingly poorly named TextView, see? So it's all good. That's all that they have there for us. So that's your resources. Your resources, oh man, they just really bring it all together. You know, it can be a pretty nasty ordeal getting the graphics and the MIP maps and all that stuff. So that's I'm really enjoying the whole resources concept. Measurements. Oh, radians. Maybe not. Density independent pixels for views. DP. That's what DP means. We've been seeing that. Scale independent pixels for text. Don't use device dependent or density dependent units. Actual pixels. Pixels are dead. The pixels are dead. You know what? You got a modern Android phone, it's got a dead pixel? No, all pixels are dead. They're dead. Actual measurements, inches. Whew, inches. What is an inch going to do for you in this world of this multi-screen world, right? Points. Anybody even know what a point is? The typographical point, font size, right? Oh, have we really reached the end? So, APIs, you got documentation. Look at this. They learn more, learn even more. What's next? I'm going to review the concept chapter. It's going to be painful. This is a big one. They hit a lot there, right? But we just got to get with it. We're just going to, you can do some review. It's always a good idea. It's never not a good idea. I'll tell you right now, you're gonna end up knees deep in the View class. You're gonna be there, man. Device independent pixels, you know, it's a unit. It's let's actually one quick dive into this. It's a physical unit of measurement based on a coordinate system held by a computer and represents an abstraction of a pixel for use by an application that an underlying system then converts to physical pixels. So I love that they gave you that explanation. It sounds legit, but it doesn't explain what the magic is. Okay? And I'm pretty sure it's like I was saying earlier. You have your radian. It's the length of the radius of a circle along the circumference of the circle, which, okay, lovely. But the idea is that when you resize the circle, 1 radian is the same angle. It represents the same amount of relative circle, even though the area, or the length of that arc is going to be longer. Well, it scales with the radius of the circle. So when you think about a display, you have something like the diagonal dimension of it. That changes. So if you base your pixel off of that, and you provide a framework that allows to convert from this meta unit into real actual pixels, which at the end of the day you're going to have to do, That's got to be one of the big linchpins in holding together this whole concept of, a world of many screens where everything's got a different resolution aspect ratio, and you even have like you can change font sizes and stuff from Android. It'll reflect in your app, so that's all happening. It's just a lot to think about. Layouting, being a UX guy. Ooh, it's a weak point for many programmers, and we have to at least understand vaguely what we're not doing, right? So that's the goal. I'm not going to hit you with any homework yet. We still have more to go. I'll see you on the flip side. Good luck. Have fun. Always learn, man. Always learn.